on the next week Sunday. Okay, the following week Sunday. So this is the overall plan. So you might have to look at this. There is no additional assignment after this midterm. Okay, basically the Viva is sufficing the assignments afterwards, right? So this is the plan. If you find also there's quiz number 4. The syllabus is saying that it's lecture note 10 to 14. Okay, but you would be in the middle of discussion of lecture note 14. So whatever amount that gets covered by April 27th from lecture note 14 will be included in quiz number 4. Okay, so just to make things clear and not ambiguous. All right, the midterm syllabus, lecture note 1 to 7, and you have already got all of those lecture notes 1 to 7. Okay, if you have any question, feel free to throw now. If there is any issue, quite often because the dates tend to make some issues. So if you have any observation regarding the dates and all, let me know. Maybe you can post on Google Calendar, Google Classroom, and you can also raise that in the class or email me. The most preferred way to ask a question is on Google Classroom. That way everybody can see what is your question, and if there is a good answer, everybody will benefit. Okay, so this is a brief update on what you received on Google Classroom, and the dates, as we talked in the last class, the dates will sustain, and the events on that day, for example, the quizzes and assignment dues and midterm, Viva, final date is not assigned yet, depending on the university's final plan. However, the rest of the things, for example, the quizzes and midterm and Viva, all of these will, inshallah, stay as planned. There should not be any change unless there is any academic calendar change or any kind of contingency that I encounter. Okay, if there is any update, you will get an updated version of this post calendar, and watch for this date. Okay, the date on the bottom right corner, that is the date of the update. So next time if you get an update, you can expect to see a different date on this one. So just so that you can be certain about which one you're looking at. Any question? কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? নেই?
No, sir.
So let's dive in. Okay, before we dive in, I wonder if I play this video, if you should be able to. Do you hear the news? I mean, do you hear the audio? Audio শুনতে পাও?
Yes, sir.
You can hear the audio?
Yes, sir.
You mean the audio of this video?
Yes, sir.
Okay, play it now.
স্যার ক্লিয়ার শোনা যাচ্ছে না, অনেক বেঁধে বেঁধে আসতেছে।
Okay, so that is going to be a problem.
স্যার আমরা আমাদের ই থেকে দেখে নিই।
দেখে নিতে পারো। How many of you are sitting on a laptop? How many of you are sitting with a laptop? Okay. All right. So you can watch this. In fact, if you should have watched it earlier, that would have been better. But some of the discussion will be pivoting on this one. Okay. Let's try to see if we can watch at least half of it together so that we'll have a context, common context of discussion. Otherwise, some of you will be sitting on a laptop and will be watching it all, and while others will not be doing so. Okay. Let's try to improve the audio and see what we can do about it.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, if
Good
you
luck.
yes, sir, if you present the YouTube directly, it can transmit the audio also, sir.
আমি জানি না কেমন কি করতে হয় সেটা।
স্যার এখানে একটা অপশন আছে যে আপনি স্লাইড শেয়ারটা যেমন নিচের থেকে প্রেজেন্ট নাও করতে পারছেন, ঠিক সেভাবেই এখানে ইউটিউবের একটা অপশন আছে স্যার, যে এই লিঙ্কটাকে আপনি ডিরেক্টলি মানে প্রেজেন্ট করতে পারবেন।
Really?
Yes,
Where is that?
স্যার ফ্রম ইয়োর গুগল মিট এই পার্টটা মেবি
Okay, let me try it.
yes.
I'll see if I can find this. And it doesn't look like it's visible from up front. Reported view.
Sir, if you turn off screen sharing and share the Google Chrome window, I think that will work.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm sharing the screen as a whole. So,
স্যার ইউটিউব লিংকটাকে ওপেন করে ক্রোমে স্যার আপনাকে মানে আলাদা করে জিনিসটাকে শেয়ার করতে হবে।
is it better?
স্যার স্ক্রিন শেয়ারটা অফ করে আপনি ইউটিউব লিংকটাকে শেয়ার করুন, শুধু আসবে।
Okay. And how is it now? Is
Yes,
it any
sir.
better?
Yes, sir.
Over 80% of the world's energy needs are provided by coal, oil, and gas. Although technologies to extract fossil fuels may have changed over the decades, the core products themselves have never been challenged. Until now.
A lot of people question whether a large dinosaur of an oil and gas company can really compete in such a new high-tech environment.
Pressure to reduce carbon emissions is putting the future of fossil fuel giants in jeopardy, encouraging the growth of alternative methods to generate and distribute power.
We are not just dairy farmer here, we are energy farmers as well.
Every private person can produce his own energy.
In just 8 years, the value of the world's biggest power companies has halved, leaving industry giants scrambling to redefine their role in this new energy world.
When I started my career, we were a monopoly. It's always technology that truly disrupts things.
Across the world, old industries are facing disruption on an unprecedented scale.
People are not taking our taxes.
The pressure to adapt has never been greater.
It is always survival of the fittest. That's capitalism.
Because where there's threat, there's also opportunity. December 2015, the Paris Climate Conference. For the first time ever, 195 countries agreed to a legally binding climate deal to reduce carbon emissions.
I think everyone in the oil and gas industry agrees that it's going to be a different future.
This $5 trillion industry may be facing a seismic shift, but that doesn't mean it's ready to ditch the dirty fossil fuels that made it rich. Instead, many companies are banking on new methods to clean up an old process. Norwegian oil and gas giant Statoil struck it rich in the North Sea in the late 1960s. Over 4 decades later, at its Sleipner gas rig, the company is attempting to make fossil fuel production cleaner.
We have an ambition to become the most carbon efficient oil and gas producer in the world. The world will look for companies like ourselves that take a proactive stand on this and deliver oil and gas to the world, but doing it in a sustainable manner.
Statoil's business still relies on the harmful burning of fossil fuels by its customers. But at least the company is trying to reduce its own carbon footprint. It's transformed some of its offshore rigs with technology that enables engineers to separate the carbon dioxide and pump it underground. Statoil's Sleipner gas rig is the world's first offshore carbon capture storage plant.
At Sleipner, we have a lot of CO2 in our gas. So we need to capture that, strip it out of the gas stream before we can export the gas. In here, you will have a continuous stream of captured CO2 going down through this well into the subsurface about 1,000 meters below us. And then we store the CO2 in the subsurface forever and ever.
Each year, Statoil stores 1 million tons of CO2, making extraction less carbon intensive. They believe that prioritizing gas over more harmful fossil fuels will further reduce global warming and keep them relevant for decades to come.
One of the advantages with gas is that it's very abundant, it's very reliable, and it's very flexible. You can turn the gas stream on and off, so you can regulate your gas flow very, very easily.
Gas may be reliable, but fossil fuels will always mean carbon emissions. Wind and solar are cleaner, but depend on subsidies. To take on the consistency of fossil fuels, they face a huge challenge: the unpredictable weather. In Bavaria, a tiny village has used those subsidies to take up the challenge. This community believes it's found a way to produce a steady energy.
Okay, class. Are you taking notes? Nobody is responding. So you'd better take notes. Okay? Each one of you will be taking notes and pick up the keywords, and then we'll discuss on the keywords and try to draw a picture. Right? Take your papers out and take notes.
Supply just from renewable sources, raising the real prospect of a future free from fossil fuels.
We have not just dairy milk, we have as well energy farming. And here you can see part of our solar panels. We have several points where we catch the sun and make energy.
Norbert and Christina Bechteller's family farm has been providing the local community with dairy products for over 200 years. But they now have a new income from solar energy.
Ein wichtiger Teil ist mittlerweile auch unsere Photovoltaikanlage. Der Strom, den wir auf den Dächern produzieren und selber nicht brauchen, wird in der Region verbraucht.
Producing your own energy with solar panels isn't revolutionary. But in this village, they're combining solar with other renewables in an attempt to achieve the holy grail of of a steady energy supply. And they're prepared to use anything to do it.
The cows always produce manure.
Deputy Mayor Gunter Mögele has helped drive the village's pioneering efforts to make renewable energy a realistic option.
We can prove that we always have more than 100% of energy, even if there is no wind and no sun at all.
There's one renewable that never disappears, as it can be sourced from the decay of virtually any organic matter. It's called biogas. Of the 4 biogas plants in the village, Farmer Einseidler runs the largest.
Zwiebel haben wir schon gehabt, Kartoffel.
Zwiebel auch schon? Also Zwiebel habe ich nicht gesehen, aber sonst haben wir schon ziemlich alle. Ja.
Ist Biogas eine wunderbare Geschichte. Man misst sonst irgendwie Komposter und Vernichter. Ja. Und sonst ist es da genutzt.
Combining these different sources has been so successful, the village now generates 5 times more energy than it needs. But that's just part of the challenge of turning renewables into a credible energy supply.
It's not only about renewable energy generation, it's also about power saving and energy saving. In order to be able to use wind and solar power literally around the clock, storage is absolutely key.
Within this community, one young company has developed a home battery system that enables the villagers to store the excess solar energy they produce for later use.
We are the first to offer storage systems for the residential market in the world, and obviously storage helps customers to use solar power regardless if the sun is shining or not.
The technology behind this battery system also holds the key to a much bigger prize for the villagers, supplying energy to each other.
Our battery systems are online and we can recognize in real time who is currently feeding power into the grid and who still needs power from the grid. And an amazing result is that you have both customers who have excess power and customers who need power from the grid. And our general idea was let them share their power between each other and get rid of stinky coal plants and nuclear power stations. Our customers can literally replace the traditional utilities 100% and go independent.
Norbert and Christina supply 50 neighboring households with the energy they generate.
Für die Haushalte ist es das Schöne, dass sie auch wissen, wo der Strom produziert wird und nicht von großen Konzernen oder weit entfernten Firmen bezogen werden muss.
Where this community has led, many others have now followed. There are now almost 1,000 energy cooperatives around Germany. It's a major challenge for the country's big 4 utilities. In 8 years, the biggest, E.ON, has seen its share price fall by over 3/4.
When I started my career, we were a monopoly. Technology has tremendously changed. Renewables are getting cheaper and cheaper. Customer behaviors is changing tremendously. And society, with climate change and other issues, has total different expectations to the industry. So the industry was shaken up at its fundament, and it's a total different industry from the 27 years ago when I started.
E.ON's income from fossil fuels has fallen by more than a third since 2008. The company recently made a drastic decision to fully commit to the renewable revolution.
E.ON has taken a very brave step. We broke the company, I would say, in two. All the commodity businesses, the traditional fossil power plants, all those businesses, we spin off into a company called Uniper, and we are remaining with the renewables.
E.ON plans to spin off the majority share of its fossil fuel assets by the end of 2016 and scale up its investment in wind and solar. But rather than focus on just generating renewable power, E.ON is sensing its real opportunity lies in managing this diverse new supply on an industrial scale.
This green society needs to be managed. Here you need to manage millions of feed-in and consumption sites. You will have sharing economies in between. You will have under and over consumption at time. This management equation, big data mining, technical competence is obviously something this world needs, and E.ON will strive for being a capable partner in that.
To secure its place in this new decentralized energy world, this former monopoly is taking steps that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago.
We are open for any kind of partnerships, with any partner, with any customer. And yes, this is also a new attitude. We don't need to control the world.
E.ON's partnerships have produced a raft of renewable energy projects. At the Arkona wind farm in the Baltic Sea, their investment partner is a surprising newcomer to the alternative energy industry, Norwegian oil and gas giant Statoil.
Altogether, it's 1.2 billion euros. We're taking 50% of that. We're talking real money here. It's not just branding or greenwashing. We expect tremendous growth with wind in particular. And, you know, if you're a business person, you want to take advantage of those growth opportunities and be part of it.
Statoil, like E.ON, is positioning itself to take advantage of the energy industry's new horizons. The company's next project draws on 4 decades of offshore experience to steal a march on far newer rivals.
It's always exciting. It's the first floating full-scale windmill in the world. Even if it's very windy, it looks like it's still, but it's actually floating.
The world's biggest offshore operator has developed a floating turbine that can be mass-produced cheaper and quicker than existing static windmills.
I think it actually makes some sense that it was an oil and gas company that came up with this, because we are reusing a lot of technology from the oil and gas sector. We're using platform technology. It's ballasted, it doesn't have any legs. The special software allows the blades to move in a certain direction, which optimizes the wind production, but it also makes the tower stand still.
Statoil's first floating wind farm is scheduled to be delivered to a site off the east coast of Scotland by 2017.
I think this is the future. It's the future of wind, at least. You can have them anywhere in the world, anywhere in any kind of sea. So this allows us to move further from shore, get better wind, and produce cheaper electricity.
Other fossil fuel giants, including Shell, Exxon, and Total, are also starting to hedge their bets with a range of investments in biofuel, batteries, solar, and wind. It might seem like a surprising move, but by embracing these alternative technologies now, forward-thinking oil and gas companies might just be able to withstand the disruption caused by the renewable revolution.
Okay, so you have seen it all now. So what is your takeaway? Bolo, what is your view? What do you think about this? What this video is about? Can you hear me?
It's about how like certain companies or industries have to evolve to survive. For example, those coal-based or fossil fuel-based companies are now trying to evolve into a renewable energy generating source.
Okay. Anybody else? Try to generalize, okay? Don't try to dive into the detail of the technology or the detail of the industry that got displayed in the video. Can you generalize things? Generalize korba. Ki kotha bola hoyeche setake general ekta theme niye ashte hobe. Anybody else? Shabbai try koro. Think about this. Generalization mane hocche you have a specific solution, specific situation, You try to think through and find out the general understanding of it and how you can apply that to broader perspective. Yes, sir. That is generalization. So what is the future? Future কেমন?
Renewable energy, what the future will be completely.
What is the general understanding that you get? Can you say that every technology changes? Can you say that every business has to adapt this to the changing environment? বলা যায় এটা যে বিজনেসটা মনে করো 40 বছর ধরে ছিল 4 decades they had monopoly, right? Now things are undergoing some changes, you know? So this is the reality. Every business changes, and so does the job market changes, right? Now think about the decisions that people take. What drives a startup? Startup কি কোন জিনিসটা ড্রাইভ করে? There was a discussion of a startup company, remember that? In this video.
Yes, sir. Subgrid based যে renewable energy ওরা ইউজ করছিল, ব্যাটারি দ্বারা ইয়ে করছিল,
আচ্ছা,
solar energy থেকে।
They were trying to enable people share their excess energy by providing a smart storage system, right?
Yes.
So what triggered their initiative? What triggered their startup? What was it? Ashfaquddin said, when there is a threat in the business field, there is an opportunity. Excellent. That's a very good point. Now, you hear that the Statoil, the old company, the old fossil fuel-based company, they have taken an engineering decision to pump their carbon dioxide to the subsurface, right? What triggered that decision? Why did they take that decision?
So excess carbon emission global warming কে আরো increase করছিল আর কি।
Okay, Devnath, you have done a good job and watching the video and you understood it. Let's have the replies from other people. Okay. I mean, don't hesitate to fill in any kind of comments, but let's hear from some other people. Class অন্যরা কেউ বলতে পারবে।
It was also a business decision.
That's right.
Because as they were falling behind, and this sector provided a lot of room for growth, and since it was a comparatively newer sector, since they had the technology to tackle these problems, since they were already working in power, they could handle it better, and they could handle it in a way that it would be profitable for them as well, instead of losing the market completely.
That's right, and also they were overseeing the future sustainability. In the future, they are seeing that the political environment is changing. People are pressing on more towards reduction of carbon footprint. To stay in business for longer period, they decided on reducing the carbon footprint. So their engineering decision to pump their carbon dioxide to the subsurface is based on their future sustainability decision, right? They wanted to sustain. Even when the renewable energy becomes more dominant, even then they want to sell the oil. So engineering decision is একটা background, একটা driving factor, motivational factor, decision making factor আসছে হচ্ছে economic sustainability থেকে। Startup যেটা, এই startupটাও আসছে based on people's requirement, right? People wanted to have the ability to share their excess energies and thereby open up a marketplace of energy. Okay, that's what triggered the startup. And one important takeaway is businesses have to constantly change. If certain business cannot change and cannot adapt, in that case, that business will not sustain. And so will the job. When businesses change, people's job change. এখন থেকে মনে করো 30 বছর আগে 30 years back, or even earlier, yes, 30 years back, it was 1991. At that time, there used to be very few computers. Okay? So most of the jobs that are done in the banks these days, for example, accounting, ledger keeping, all those used to be done on pen and paper, plain books. তোমাকে কখনো পুরোনো আমলে যদি ব্যাংকে যাওয়ার ছবি দেখে থাকো, তোমাদের প্যারেন্টসদের ব্যাংকের ডকুমেন্ট দেখো, দেখবা যে সেখানটায় জমা বই হিসেবে একটা ডিপোজিশন রেকর্ড বুক থাকতো, ঠিক আছে? এখন আর এগুলো থাকে না। So computers came and it changed a lot of things. People learned, it reduced some jobs and it created more jobs. This is what happens. People adapt. Okay. So, excuse me. So overall, এই যে ভিডিওটা তোমরা দেখলা যেটা, if you dive into the technological details, you will be talking about fossil fuel. তুমি টেকনোলজিক্যাল ডিটেইলে ডাইভ করো, তুমি ফসিল ফিউলের কথা বলবা। You'll talk about CO2 to subsurface, right? You might talk about battery technology. If you dive into the detailed view, but if you fly above, if you want to look into the bigger picture, then you talk about sustainability, right? কেমন করে business long-term sustain করবে? You talk about constant change. Change in business plus engineering decisions based on economics. Economic realities. Okay. This is actually ground view. And this satellite view. ঠিক আছে? বুঝতে পারছো? মনে করো পৃথিবীর সারফেস এটা আর্থ। You can see one tree, trees are here, you can see plants and shrubs. If you look at it, you see trees. অনেকগুলো গাছ দেখতে পাও, যদি তুমি কাছে তাকাও তাহলে গাছ দেখতে পাও, but if you are high above in the outer space, okay, মনে করো this is a satellite, যদি স্যাটেলাইট থেকে দেখছো, if this is your view, what do you see? স্যাটেলাইট থেকে দেখলে এরকম করে পৃথিবীর ল্যান্ডস্কেপ দেখা যায়, তাই না? This is the earth. So this is the difference of view which you will have to generate. একই ভিডিও দেখে তুমি দুই ধরনের কনক্লুশন করতে পারো, দুই ধরনের ইনফরমেশন এক্সট্রাক্ট করতে পারো। একটা হচ্ছে ডিটেইল ইনফরমেশন, মনে করো যেখানে ডিসকাশন হচ্ছে ফসিল ফিউল, কার্বন ডাই অক্সাইড এমিশন, ব্যাটারি টেকনোলজি, তারপরে উইন্ড এনার্জি, ফ্লোটিং, ওকে, floating windmill, wind turbines, and so on. এটা তুমি টেক অ্যাওয়ে করতে পারো। You can pick up these information, or you can pick up the sustainability goals. You can pick up the constant changing theme in business, and you can look at how engineering decisions are constantly getting based upon the economic realities. Okay? Can you follow?
Yes, sir.
তাহলে এই দুটোর মধ্যে the course engineering economics, this is going to deal with this one, and it will deliberate on moving away and abstracting away from the detail. Okay, what is the gain? The gain হচ্ছে you have a tree view when you look at the detail, and you have a satellite view when you look at the abstraction. What is the gain in the satellite view? Dharo, this is the face of the earth, and you have lot of trees. সব জায়গায় ট্রি আছে, কিন্তু এই জায়গাতে, এইটুকু জায়গাতে কোনো গাছ নেই, ঠিক আছে? You have trees and all these areas are green, but let's say this area is not green. There is no tree out there. If you are looking at the tree constantly, ঠিক আছে, যদি তুমি গাছের দিকে তাকিয়ে থাকো, if you're looking at the trees, you will fail to look at these places where there is no tree. Okay, when you're looking at this from the satellite, you get to see the forest. ফরেস্ট মানে বন দেখতে পাও, তুমি দেখতে পাচ্ছ এই জায়গাতে বন আছে, বন জঙ্গল আছে, আর এই জায়গাতে আছে মরুভূমি, এখানে আছে মরুভূমি, ডেজার্ট। So when you're looking at the satellite view, you can see the desert and you can see the forest. But when you're looking at the tree view, or maybe we can say when you climb a tree and you look around, you see many other trees, and you don't see the full forest, and you never get to see the desert. Okay, so if you see the desert, you know that you can either plant more trees here, and you can open up new opportunities, you can plant more trees, or you can say that you want to dig in and find some minerals, maybe oil, maybe, okay, on new resources. All right, so an engineering view is actually a view which gives you expertise on the tree view. একটা গাছ কেমন করে বেড়ে উঠছে, কেমন করে তার পুষ্টি হচ্ছে, কেমন করে সেখান থেকে কাঠ ইউজ করা যাবে, how the animal ecosystems and natural ecosystems are evolved around the tree, how a tree is adapted to that ecosystem environment. This is what you study, understand, and work on as an engineer. ঠিক আছে, এটা হচ্ছে engineers work in this area. But as an engineer, you need to know where else can you plant a tree. And you don't find an answer to where else you have to plant a tree unless you fly above and go to the satellite and take a look. তুমি যখন fly করে উপরে যাও, that means when you abstract away from the detail, only then you realize what you have to do and where you have to apply your engineering capability. ঠিক আছে? You see the desert and also you see the forest when you're at the satellite level picture. When you're at the satellite level and you're looking down on Earth, this is what you see. So this is the purpose of this course. Moving away from the details, abstracting away from the details, and generating deeper understanding on the spectrum, overall landscape, to make better decision and create better opportunity and surplus, and also this sustainability. Making sense? বোঝা যাচ্ছে কিছু? যদি মনে হয় স্যার কি কি যে বলেন এই কিছু বুঝি না, ঠিক আছে, তাহলে এটা আমাকে বলতে হবে. In that case, we can have a better discussion. Bolo, question? Anybody has any question? তাহলে যখন তোমার ডিসিশন মেকিং আসে, ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ডিসিশন মেকিং আসে, তখনকার কাজ হচ্ছে you have to abstract away from the details, okay, and look at the bigger picture. এই কোর্সে কি জিনিস তোমাদেরকে টাচ করা হবে সেটা একটা গ্লিমস আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং, a quick view, okay. Like I mentioned, as an engineer, you may have a very close picture and knowledge, for example, about LED and all, you are the expert of it. But this course will try to take your picture from this detailed view to a high level view, for example, looking at Earth from the moon surface, right? So there has to be a seismic viewpoint shift. We'll try to link between economics and engineering a lot. So if you have understanding about economics, which we discussed in the last lecture, you would have better grasp on how to linking them. So in picture, what is engineering economics? What basically people do? Think about Padma Bridge, right? It started off in the planning phase long before today. And then they calculated the money required, disregarding the other things like corruption and all, everything. Looking at the aspect of economics and engineering, you have a plan, and then people invest, you generate something, and then you sell it, and then you make profit. So this is the usual natural step of any business, right? But at every stage of this business, you have to ensure that there is precise economic suitability, okay, in all the engineering decisions. So why do you have to study this? Why do you have to study? You have to study to find out where the opportunity is, and find out where you can create further surplus. 20 years back, the job market was different. Now it's different. For example, I wonder if in the last lecture, did we talk about the battery price falling? Did we talk about that? বলেছিলাম?
No, sir.
Maybe actually I have 3 sections in which we have engineering economics. So maybe I discuss this with section 9. You can look at this. In fact, this is not important from which this is from Bloomberg, I believe. Look at the price of battery. Real $20 per kilowatt hour. And the price of battery is constantly falling. Okay? It's constantly falling. But do you have any course that teaches you about batteries in ECE or CSE? আছে ইউনিভার্সিটিতে? তোমরা কোনো কোর্স করেছো ব্যাটারির উপরে?
Sir, no, maybe not, sir.
কারণ নাই, কারণ কোনো কোর্স এখনো ডেভেলপ করা হয় নাই। ঠিক আছে? But this is the trend. When the battery prices fall, you'll find a lot of people are working on it. A lot of the people out there, they are doing research, and there will be job prospects opening up. But what will happen is all of us, you are the futures, you will be, you will be in the darkness, you would not know how to handle this. ঠিক আছে? So, এই যে battery price fall করছে, and the view of it has nothing to do with engineering aspect. একজন ইঞ্জিনিয়ার যে মনে করো electrical engineer or computer science engineer, he works with the algorithms and he develops code. He might not be aware that he has to change his job nature, get more information about battery technology, and be practically involved with battery management systems, right? BMS. We talked about BMS. ঠিক আছে? এই জিনিসটা যদি ইঞ্জিনিয়ার না জানে, তাহলে সে কেমন করে তার স্কিল শিফট করবে? মনে করো electrical engineer or CSE graduate, they are still working on, let's say, I don't know, some algorithm or some maybe optical fiber optics research and so on and so forth. But the major trend, huge shift is in the battery. And in the next 5 to 10 years, people will need to have knowledge, and there will be a lot of jobs opening in battery technologies, and you will have no clue how to switch into it. Okay, maybe you'll have to start from the fresh because you didn't take any course from the university. তাহলে কি হবে? যেহেতু তোমরা আগে জানো নাই, আমরা সবাই ট্রি ভিউ নিয়ে ব্যস্ত ছিলাম. Everybody was busy teaching his own courses and happy doing his own research, and the entire opportunity got slipped. It's possible. ঠিক আছে? So when you have this economic view, তখন তুমি জানো যে opportunity কোথায় ওপেন হচ্ছে. ঠিক আছে? Then you take decision and shift your skills and people along to that direction and have benefit. বুঝতে পারলা? এটা one of the real examples. This is happening and none of us are paying attention. All right? This is not some kind of prophecy. This is based on economic trend that you see today. কিছু বুঝতে পারছো? Is it making sense?
Yes, sir.
Battery management system, there has been a recent startup company. I think it's based on by some Indians. They received huge funding in BMS. maybe if I find it, I saw one of those news in newspapers regarding one Indian company that raised a lot of. I think this is it. I forgot. I mean, we'll not look into this, but I think one of the companies, they were specializing on battery management systems, BMS, and they got the funding. Okay, if I come across the article again, I'll share that with you. But this is the reality. Okay, the reality is majority of us, we're not paying attention to the economics aspect of engineering shift, and we are basically remaining blind to all these changes. And only when the changes have occurred and everybody is far ahead of us, we understand it and we jump on it, and then we lose. You can say. So why do we study? We study so that we can look at the future, we can look at what is happening, how the spectrum is changing, and we can create surpluses. We can create opportunities. For example, we can stay competitive in the market. That is the goal. Okay. এই কোর্সে তোমরা একটা জিনিস পড়বা যে estimation of production function. When you're producing something, যে কোনো material তোমরা use করো না কেন সেটাই at some place it was produced. So you have to understand how to produce a certain product at a cheaper cost, and so that ultimately you can benefit. So production function নিয়ে তোমাদের discussion থাকবে, and you'll have concepts about total product and the output, how it changes, average product, and there will be a discussion of technology life cycle. You had just a little bit of glimpse into this kind of technology life cycle in the video that you saw. Big oil industry, which used to be thought of as a huge beast, huge dinosaurs, which is not going to die, and so on and so forth, which is actually seeing its own death. The fossil fuel industry is gradually decaying, and along with that, new technologies are popping up, and the old ones will disappear. So that gives you a glimpse into a kind of life of technology. You can give many examples of technology that existed before and they are not there. So we'll talk about technology life cycle in one of the course, one of the lectures. And there will be discussion about how to manage innovation, because if you're gripping tight on old technology which is dying, you know that your business will suffer. Okay, so you have to constantly evolve and change and innovate. So how do you manage your innovation inside your company? That will be one part of discussion. Once you have innovated, how do you disclose that? How do you make people adapt your innovation? When you innovate mobile phone, you have to think about how people will start using mobile phones all across the spectrum. The young, the old, the rich, the poor. Okay? Everybody will be using your technology. How you can diffuse that to everybody and have a better business? This is about technology innovation diffusion. We'll talk about that. And then organizational decision making. Actually, in today's discussion, we'll try to dig a little bit on that. This is design for manufacturing. It has to do with the cost saving also. So everything that you produce, it undergoes some level of manufacturing. So it has been observed that if design is changed with a goal of saving cost, you can save more than 80%, 70, 80 or more percentage of cost saving by changing the design according to your expectation. We'll talk about that. This will be a short lecture. And you'll gain understanding of network economics. Okay. especially related to telecommunications. And then there will be discussion on venture capital, which a lot of people seek at the time they are starting a startup. And what is their goal? How do you qualify to get that kind of funding if you are seeking entrepreneurship? It's not mandatory to have a VC capital to run a successful entrepreneurship, but nowadays startups are more dependent on it. So we'll have a discussion. There will be discussion of risk and time value of money, because these are definitely interlinked together, and business and engineering economics has to do with both of them a lot. And finally, towards the end of the semester, we'll discuss about intangible assets. For example, a lot of you are software track people. You're graduating from CSE or EEE and writing a lot of software codes, okay? And how you can evaluate your software codes, how your code is what in the market, how much you can sell it for. These discussions will be there, okay? So there will be few other additional discussions. Sometimes few terms will come up. For example, sunk cost, variable cost, and fixed cost. These definitions are in general already taught in some economics courses earlier. If you have taken the earlier prerequisite, you would have already known this. Okay. So we'll give a little bit of idea about it. All right. And then this is the spectrum of this is the content spectrum of the course. Okay. Any question? প্রশ্ন আছে কারো? প্রশ্ন না থাকলে আরেকটা স্লাইড বার করব। Are you connected?
Yes, sir.
Apparently, there will be lot of subjects, lot of new terms. They may be new, may not be new to many of you. So, if you see these terms, don't be upset because a lot of things are not known to you. Gradually, you'll be able to grasp them all. And it might seem a little bit of unorganized, right? Because this course is an amalgamation of many other concepts which you don't learn in general in the other courses, in engineering courses. So eventually, at some point, it has to make some monolithic, comprehensive sense and enable you to take a good decision. Okay? So this is lecture note 2. So we are covering lecture note 1 and 2 in a single go, and lecture note 2 will be a little bit short. Decision making. যখন কোনো অর্গানাইজেশন তুমি আছো, মনে করো ইউনিভার্সিটিতে তোমরা সবাই একসাথে ধরো COVID-19 kind of sensitive, right? Let's talk about something else. Let's say you're planning a trip to St. Martin Island, Narikal Jinjira. গিয়েছো কেউ?
জি স্যার।
আচ্ছা, মনে করো তোমরা সবাই মিলে ক্লাসে 24-25 জন মিলে তোমরা ওখানে যেতে যাচ্ছ। So how will you plan? Let's say you have many options. তোমাদের একটা অপশন আছে, you have some money. Let us say you have some money. Say তোমাদেরকে 1 লক্ষ টাকা দেওয়া হয়েছে। Now you can spend the money together as a class. Option 1, you can go for a sightseeing. Sightseeing is the power. Option 2, you can take an industrial tour. Industrial tour. Okay. You can buy books. All right. So এগুলোর মধ্যে তোমাদের যদি বলা হয় ডিসিশন নিতে, তোমরা কিসের বেসিসে ডিসিশন নিবা? How will you decide? Remember that this is not an individual decision, তাই না? সবাই মিলে ডিসিশন নিচ্ছ। 20 জন 25 জন একসাথে ডিসিশন নিতে হবে। কেমন করে নিবা?
স্যার ফিউচার বেনিফিটের উপর ডিপেন্ড করে।
কেমন করে ডিসিশন ফিউচার বেনিফিট চিন্তা করবা?
লাইক স্যার সাইট সিইং তেমন ইম্পর্টেন্ট হবে না, ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল ট্যুরটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট হবে।
আচ্ছা,
সো স্যার ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল ট্যুরের উপরে ইনভেস্ট বেশি করব।
আচ্ছা, ধরো তোমরা একটা ক্লাস, ইউ আর নট এ ক্লাস, ঠিক আছে? You are an executive body. You are, let's say, chief executive officers of a company. Devnath is saying that mass voting regarding goal of the class. Okay, that's a good point too. সবাই মিলে চিন্তা করতে চাও যে হ্যাঁ কি ইয়ে হবে। ধরো আমি সেটআপটা চেঞ্জ করলাম, এখন তোমরা বলছো তোমরা ক্লাসে আছো, ক্লাসে সবাই মিলে চিন্তা করবে কোথায় যাবা। একজন বলছো যে ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল ট্যুর হয়তো ভালো হবে, কারণ এভরিবডি ইউ আর গ্রাজুয়েটিং স্টুডেন্টস এন্ড ইউ হ্যাভ টু লার্ন what is out there in the industry. Maybe the industrial tour will be better. Now think about that. You are no longer a class. You are no longer an undergraduate class. You are a group of CXO from many different companies. Group of companies. ঠিক আছে? CXO means জানো? CXO কি জিনিস? Chief X এর যে কোনো ভ্যালু হতে পারে, আর ও হচ্ছে অফিসার। ও হচ্ছে অফিসার। And X can be, your X can be an executive officer. It can be technology officer. It can be marketing officer. ঠিক আছে? মনে করো কোম্পানির হর্তাকর্তা, বড় মাপের লোকজন তোমরা। এখন তোমাদের কোম্পানি ঠিকমতো কাজ করছে না, কোম্পানির যেরকম স্পিডে কোম্পানির কাজ করার কথা তার চেয়ে বেশি স্পিড হচ্ছে, সেরকম স্পিড হচ্ছে না, সব জায়গায় একটা ব্যুরোক্রেটিক ঝামেলা লেগে আছে। তখন কি করবা? তোমাদের এই অপশন দেওয়া হলো, বলা হলো 1 লক্ষ টাকা দেওয়া হলো, তোমরা কি করবা? তখন কি তোমাদের ডিসিশন একই রকম থাকবে?
না স্যার।
উচিত। আচ্ছা, একটু ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড তোমাদের দরকার এখানটায়। একটা কোম্পানি, অনেক বড় কোম্পানি, অনেকগুলো চিফ এক্সিকিউটিভ অফিসার, তারা প্রত্যেকের ইউনিটের হচ্ছে লিডার একজন। অনেকজন লিডার যদি একসাথে ঠিকমতো কাজ করতে হয় তাহলে তাদের মধ্যে ভালো ফ্রেন্ডশিপ এবং ট্রাস্ট দরকার হয়। ফ্রেন্ডশিপ এন্ড ট্রাস্ট, বিকজ যখন টপ লিডাররা they work together, it can generate a lot of speed in the organization. আর যখন তার নিজের মধ্যে ডিপ্লোম্যাটিক chaos-এর মধ্যে পড়ে থাকে তখন কোম্পানির স্পিড কমে যায়। আর কোম্পানি তাদের মধ্যে ডিপ্লোমেসি কমানোর একটা ওয়ে হচ্ছে if you let them have good understanding of each other. And the way you get them to have good understanding is by getting them into a setup which is more friendly. তাদেরকে সাইট সিইং নিয়ে যাওয়া উচিত হবে। সাইট সিইং গেলে তারা কি করবে? তারা কাজের কথা বলবে না, তারা ইন্টারপার্সোনাল কমিউনিকেশন তৈরি করবে। And this will bring big benefit to the company. ওকে, এখন খেয়াল করো তোমরা যখন ক্লাসরুম হিসেবে ছিলা, when you are a classroom, when you are a class of undergrad class versus when you are basically CXOs, right decision basically differed. This one would be maybe industrial truth, and this one may be sightseeing. Sightseeing, or it may be simple, maybe simple, relaxation. Relaxation trip. যে বসে থেকে এক জায়গায় খাওয়া দাওয়া করা, গল্প গুজব করে আর চলে আসা। So when the setup changes, your decision change. When the parameters change, and it will change the decision. ঠিক আছে? এখন অর্গানাইজেশন গুলো যখন ডিসিশন নেয় তখন তারা মোটামুটি এরকম একটা ফর্মুলা চিন্তা করে ডিসিশন নেয়। প্রত্যেকটা অর্গানাইজেশন ডিসিশনের পিছনে একটা ইকোনমিক রিয়ালিটি থাকে, কি করলে তার আউটপুট কি হবে এটা থাকে। যেমন সিএক্সওদের এক জায়গায় নিয়ে গেলে, সাইট সিইং এ নিয়ে গেলে, it will generate better understanding, and better understanding will reduce the diplomacy. Diplomacy reduction হলে কি হবে? You have greater speed in company's execution. And what will be the result? The result will be better profit, or you can say surplus. ঠিক আছে? So ডিসিশন কি হবে সেটা অনেক ক্ষেত্রে বেস করে আলটিমেটলি তুমি কি পাচ্ছ সেটার উপরে, কি তোমার গোল সেটার উপরে। অর্গানাইজেশন গুলো যখন ডিসিশন নেয় তখন অর্গানাইজেশন ডিসিশনের কিছু ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড থাকে। In general, they call it rational decision making. Okay, and the rational decision making is about consistently maximizing the choices of certain constraints. কিছু কিছু কনস্ট্রেন্ট থাকবে, রেশনাল ডিসিশন মেকিং করতে হয় কোম্পানিতে গেলে। যেমন ডিসিশন মেকিং এর মধ্যে এটা থাকে ধরো একটা বাজেট থাকে, বাজেট দেওয়া আছে তোমাদের 1,000 টাকা, 1 লক্ষ টাকা, সরি, ঠিক আছে? So এই 1 লক্ষ টাকার মধ্যে whether you go to the sightseeing or you go to the industrial tour or buy the books, you have to accommodate. Maybe it's not that you have to either go to sightseeing or buy the books, or you go to the industrial tour and sightseeing, or it's not that mutually exclusive, you can combine them. Okay, but it's still you have certain constraint, and একটা constraint থাকে যে এতটার মধ্যে, আবার এরকম থাকতে পারে টাইম constraint, এই সেমিস্টার আগে করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? So these are the general ingredients of rational decisions. এই constraint গুলোকে বলা হয় resource. Resource গুলো utilize করতে হবে. You have certain amount of time. You have to utilize a certain amount of budget, and then based on that you make your decision. ঠিক আছে? So কেমন করে ডিসিশন গুলো নেয় কোম্পানিগুলো? এটা হচ্ছে তোমার এখানে 1 লক্ষ টাকা খরচ করে কোন জিনিসটা ভালো হবে সেটা চিন্তা করে মানুষ। When it comes to organizations, if they are going to take the CXOs to industrial tour, it has a certain outcome. But if they take them to the sightseeing, that has another type of outcome. If you take the CXOs to the industrial tour, you might see a very short-term answers, short-term results, short-term outputs. Okay? If you take them to the sightseeing, you might find a little bit longer-term outcomes. That's it. So depending on your expectation, you always try to maximize your outcome. যাই ডিসিশন নাও না কেন সেটা তোমার কেমন করে বেশি আর বেশি চিন্তা করা হয়, ঠিক আছে? So each individual decision making, individual who makes the decision, he constantly has to think about how to maximize the outcome or minimize the cost. In fact, these notes are from the prior class. Economic decision making in general কি হয়, constraint গুলোর মধ্যে continuously it involves money, and in that there is a constant drive towards reducing the cost, and they want to maximize the benefit, and it always starts with a budget. তোমার এক্সাম্পল এখানে যেখানে বলা হয়েছিল 1 লক্ষ টাকা, you would always have a budget. If you don't have a budget, in that case you don't need any decision. ঠিক আছে? তোমার আনলিমিটেড যদি টাকা থাকে তাহলে তোমার ডিসিশন নেওয়ার জন্য চিন্তা করতে হয় না। But the reality is nothing is unlimited. All right? And also there is a term called special empirical margins. Empirical কি জিনিস জানো? What is empirical?
Ratio.
আর একটু ট্রাই করো, what is empirical? Empirical হচ্ছে
স্যার যেটা থিওরি মানে না।
হ্যাঁ, থিওরিটিক্যাল না, এই জিনিসটা তোমার বেসড অন এক্সপেরিয়েন্স। ধরো তুমি বাজারে বেরোলে, রাস্তায় নামলে, ঢাকা শহরের রাস্তায় নামলেই যে কোনো জায়গায় যেতে কমসে কম 200 টাকা খরচ হয় এক বেলা যাতায়াতের জন্য। যাও আসো 200 টাকা খরচ হয়ে যায়, বাসে চড়ো অথবা রিক্সায় চড়ো, যাই করো। So this is an empirical value. তুমি যদি একজন যাও 200 টাকা খরচ হবে, কিংবা 250 টাকা খরচ হবে। 2 জন গেলে দেখবা যে 500 টাকা খরচ হচ্ছে। 3 জন গেলে দেখবা 700 টাকা 600 টাকা খরচ হয়। So all of these are based on your experience. You have been wandering in the city of Dhaka for many years, and now you have come up with a thumb rule. বাইরে বেরোচ্ছি, পকেটে 200 টাকা মিনিমাম নিয়ে বেরোতেই হবে। Otherwise, you won't be able to get around. That's it. So there is no formal calculation which you can ascribe to it, but this is based on experience, and that's known as empirical value. So your economic decision has to involve a budget and some specific empirical values. এই ভ্যালুগুলো তুমি দিয়ে দেখবা তুমি বাজেট কতটা কেমন করে ইউজ করতে পারো। ঠিক আছে, যেমন এই এক্সাম্পলটা মনে করো, তোমাকে 1 লক্ষ 1.5 লাখ টাকা দেওয়া হয়েছে। You have 1.5 lakh টাকা to support you for one semester. এই সেমিস্টারে তোমার কোর্সের রেজিস্ট্রেশন করতে হবে। You need to pay for the food, your housing, and you might have to spend some of your personal, competing needs and this and that. So, how do you decide how much of money you have to allocate? কত টাকা কোর্স রেজিস্ট্রেশন করতে হবে, কত টাকা খাবার লাগবে? These values will come from your empirical margins. তুমি গত মাসে কত টাকা খেয়েছো তুমি জানো, কত টাকা তোমার বাড়ি ভাড়া লেগেছে, যাতায়াতের খরচ লেগেছে, you already know. So you apply this knowledge and try to fit all of that into 1.5 lakh taka and take a decision. Okay? এটা বড় কিছু না, ঠিক আছে, এমন নতুন কিছু না, everybody takes decision, but when it comes to organization you have to abide by certain constraint to take a decision. ঠিক আছে, in general, when organizations are making decisions, they take these 6 steps. Okay? They first define the problem. তোমার organization কে কি করতে হবে সেটা define করে নাও, and then you identify what are the decision criteria. Think about this. তোমার কাছে 1.5 লাখ টাকা আছে এবং তোমার এক সেমিস্টার সাপোর্ট করতে হবে। This is your problem. You have to support your one semester by 1.5 lakh taka. That is the problem. And how do you decide what is the decision making criteria? ধরো একজন চিন্তা করলো যে এই সেমিস্টারে খুব মজা করব, that is the decision criteria, right? Fun. আবার একজন মনে করলো যে না ঠিক আছে, decision making criteria ফানের ওয়েটেজ থাকবে, বাট ফানের ওয়েটেজ হচ্ছে 20%। এই সেমিস্টারে অনেক ভালো করতে হবে, good grades. This is also decision making criteria. Okay. Similarly, you can say that maybe these two are decision making criteria. So you set these criteria, কি করতে চাও, and then apply this criteria onto your choices. কোর্স কতগুলো রেজিস্ট্রেশন করবা, তোমার গ্রেড ভালো রাখতে হবে, আবার you have to be comfortable together. So apply this criteria while taking the decision. And এই ক্রাইটেরিয়া গুলো দিয়ে কোনটা করলে তোমার কোন কোন কাজ করলে সেই ক্রাইটেরিয়া কতটুকু ফুলফিল হয় সেটা বার করতে হবে। So what they do is allocate weights to each one of those criteria. যদি একটা কাজ করলে অনেক ফান হয় তাহলে সেটার কত ওয়েট হয়। Okay? So that's how then they develop the alternatives. If you want to go for fun trip to Kuakata or Platinum, or maybe somewhere else, maybe an industrial tool, you develop what you want to do, and then evaluate all of those alternatives using these criteria. Okay? So then you take a decision. So in general, there are 6 steps, but there is additional reading material posted on your Google Classroom. This is an article by MIT Sloan. Go ahead and read that. And There's another article on predicting the future, because quite often whatever you decide that is regarding the future, what you want to do in future. Okay, read this article, and also you have watched this video. So together, you should be able to decide what kind of course of action you want to take in future. তোমাদের আজকে একটা assignment post করা হবে. That assignment will relate to your video that you have watched, and also related to decision making, and that affects the future. Yes, sir. Read this article. These articles are posted on Google Classroom. Read this, and when the assignment is posted, write a small write-up, and maybe the due date will be next week. Okay, sir. We are skipping this role of engineers in business. In fact, we should not skip. We already talked about this, but over the course of time, we talk about this in better details. Yes, sir. So this is it for today. In very brief, we'll take your attendance.
Sir, I had a question.
Go ahead. What is the question?